Hello, beautiful human being. Ryan Magic here. Welcome back to the Ryan Magic Show. Would you believe it? Ryan Magic Show. Today's episode is a important topic that I'm very passionate about. So there will be some rants, and I'm going to talk about the curse of busyness, the busyness curse, a worldwide epidemic, if I want to be dramatic about it, where we've normalized a cycle of overstimulation of the nervous system, dopamine addiction, struggling to get ample rest, and then a whole onslaught of health conditions arise as a symptom of this problem of busyness. So I'm going to talk about it, the causes of it, things that you may not have thought about that have impacted it. I'm going to share some normalized ways of life in modern society that when I point out will probably have you go WTF. And then I'll talk about what it could look like to redirect this, be a bit of a pioneer in living a healthy life that will give you your power back, allow you to be a lot more effective and have your most fulfilled life possible. Hashtag fulfillment first. Okay, beautiful humans. So I would love you to leave a review on the podcast. If you can pause it now and leave a review, that would mean so much to me. Thank you. Let's do this. So one thing that I found really interesting, and I find very interesting, is that we live in a world that's driven largely in Western world by profit, industry, and business. Even if someone's an employee, they're an employee to a business. And so the world is very, very driven by economics. And if you look at the word business and look up the Latin origin of it, the word business literally comes from the word busy, busyness, business. And I've always kind of had a bit of an inkling of it. But then recently when I looked it up, I was like, it literally means busyness. So if you look at the Latin root word of business, it means someone that is very busy. And in our society, that's in some level a celebration point. Wow, hard worker. And I understand that some people do what they have to do to survive in their current conditions. If there are people that just happen to be, I'm going to say, unlucky enough to be born in a dangerous country or city, and then they leave and they immigrate to another country, and they've got to work a few jobs to put their kids through school. There is nothing wrong with that. That's super admirable and inspiring. And we've gotten to a point in the world, especially in countries that are as safe and prosperous as Australia, America, Canada, the UK, Sweden, Norway. And there's a level of comfort there that doesn't require this reactive approach to life anymore. And the other piece that I want to just name is I'm talking about situations where people, given the circumstances, must do what I just said and work multiple jobs and work super hard. But there's a lot of people that are just normalizing it and doing it when they don't have to do that. And that's what I'm going to address. And so there's going to be multiple angles through which we discuss this topic. First and foremost, I want us just to understand where we've come from. So 10,000 years ago was when agriculture was first used and discovered. And this means that for the 150 to 200,000 years before 10,000 years ago, as Homo sapiens walked the earth, they were foragers. We were foragers, which meant hunter-gatherers. So what would we spend our time doing in the lifestyle that like our brains are designed for, our bodies are designed for, the way that we have our physiology, psychology, minds and bodies have been designed for is essentially to find food, avoid predators, have shelter, and procreate. Right? And that pretty much summarizes the time spent in a day. That's what people would do. So the average person living in tribal times, they would get up with the sun and then do the work that was required to do before it got too hot in the day, and working anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. I guess if someone was on a hunting trip, maybe it would be more. And that would be them doing the requirements that the tribe, the village needs. We got to go hunt. We got to weave some baskets. We're going to repair some shelter. We're going to start a fire and forage some berries. Cool. They're the requirements. Now what do they do outside of that time? They rest. They tell stories. They hang around. They do drawings and use their imagination and just chill. There's a lot more relaxation. And there was an environment which I find really funny, that it was impossible. We all know the feeling experientially of the power of nature, being in nature, and how it calms and soothes the soul. And it regulates our system innately. And 10,000 years ago, it was impossible not to be grounded 24/7. So in a modern home, some people buy grounding sheets that plug into the wall, and there's a current that runs through the bed that sticks into the earthing pole of the house and circulates those negative ions that we naturally get when grounding through the electricity plug, from the earthing pole into the electrical circuit, through the plug into the bed, and we get a bit of groundingness at night if you have grounding sheets. And then, but when you're not in the bed, you're not grounded, walking around in shoes, put shoes on, go outside, walking on the pavement, and there's not a sense of groundedness. But 10,000 years ago, it was impossible not to be grounded 24/7. Standing on the rocks, grounded. People weren't wearing shoes, so they're on the rocks, grounded. In the grass, grounded. In the river, grounded. Ocean, grounded. They're 24/7 grounded. On a tree, grounded. It's like, where can they be? There's no buildings, so everything is grounded and grounding. So that's a very different reality to live in from a rejuvenation perspective. They're in nature 24/7. They're having light connection with other tribes people 24/7. So there's community and a sense of belonging. That's a different reality from a energy in and out perspective. That's a lot of restoration and energy cultivation. Whereas now, it's not just necessarily that we're working longer on average, because again, tribes people would work, let's say, an average 4, 5, 6 hours a day, all around people they love, doing the thing that they know that they're meant to do and need to do. And I know what that feels like, because I did my hunting trip 18 months ago, of which I spent all day, every day looking for food. It wasn't 5 or 6 hours a day. It was like 12 to 14 hours a day of work. And I was significantly more relaxed and grounded than what I would be working 5 hours a day on the computer, 4 hours, 3 hours. Whole different reality. And so 10,000 years ago and beyond, we were foraging. Our time spent was significantly less in conditions that were significantly more restorative. The other thing was, often it would be sundown, go to sleep, sun up, get up. So there was just a lot more time spent sleeping. Paul Chek, the godfather of health, as I deem him, who's amazing. If you don't know him, check out his stuff. Actually, I highly recommend, and this, please put this in the show notes, Krishna, my podcast producer, a link to Paul Chek's 4 daily motion videos that are 4 parts of a keynote that he does, how to eat, move, and be healthy. And there's a book. I've got it. Hey, where'd it go? I put it on the other side of my desk. It's an amazing book. And it's by this amazing man. And he estimated that 150 years ago to 200 years ago, the average human slept 11 to 13 hours a night. And now the recommended sleep amount is 7 to 9. And the actual stats say something different. And so I just quickly Googled, see what the state of sleep is around the world right now. And there was a massive survey done. 30% of people have been reportedly diagnosed with a sleep disorder. 50 to 70 million adults in the US, 50 to 70 million adults in the US are affected by a sleep disorder. And that is just wild, wild. 72% of adults around the world say they don't sleep as well as they'd like. And 67% have disturbances each night. 80% of people want to improve their sleep. And that's just shocking. I know roughly 35 to 40% of people sleep 5 to 7 hours a night. So these are just from different stats that I've read. So that's problematic. That's problematic. That's not enough rest. And I'm going to drop a point that to me is one of the world's biggest blind spots that exists, period. And that is that the average person wakes up to an alarm. It's just commonplace for people, the idea of snoozing an alarm. It's just commonplace. Yep, snooze an alarm. Just normal. It's just what people do. And think about it this way. If you went to sleep on a holiday and then you don't have an alarm and you wake up, however long you sleep for is the time needed for your body and mind to recover. If there is a alarm that intervenes that time required for recovery, you're simply not fully recovered. Which means that your body is just now in deficit. And people do that every single day. And so they wake up from the alarm, they're like, oh, got to get out of bed, I'm exhausted. They get up and they're feeling a bit zombie-like, have a coffee to try to synthetically boost what's going on, to inhibit the receptors that tell us that we're tired, and then survive on false energy, not being fully recovered. The first half of each night, when we're asleep, our body is working on recovering our brain. And what happens is our entire body from the head down has the lymph drainage system, which is a set of tubes that run parallel to our vascular system. And it essentially pulls toxins from the bloodstream, pumps it around, and then disposes of it using various strategies. But it's constantly disposing of the waste throughout the body. Whereas in the actual brain, there's the cerebral fluid, the spinal fluid that sits up in the brain. All that fluid that exists in there, because there is no lymph drainage system in the brain, there's just this cerebral fluid. And the waste that is produced from the energy that is burned in the brain, which as we know is a lot. It's like one of the biggest uses of calories in our whole body is the mind working on a daily basis, which is why it can be more tiring to work on a laptop doing strategic thinking than it can be to do heavy labor. It can be more tiring because we burn so many calories using our brain. And during those chemical processes of energy extraction, there's waste that then is produced and it just sits in the cerebral fluid. And so we've got all this waste in our mind that we collect throughout the day. If you don't get a good night's sleep or you go to bed too late and you wake up feeling really groggy the next day, kind of like a mini hangover, that's because the waste in the brain wasn't disposed of, because that only drains at night in that first half of the night. And so if there isn't enough sleep, particularly in the first half of the night, then that waste isn't being drained. It's all clogged up in there in the brain, and we feel groggy in the morning. So that's half the equation. Well, not exactly half, but that's just roughly the mind and the body are the two areas that are being recovered in the night. If you're not getting enough sleep, the mind's not recovering and the body's not recovering fully. So then if you wake up through an alarm and it's just normalized, if you need an alarm to get up, there's a problem. In the wild, there's no alarm clocks. There's no alarm clocks. The person goes to bed because it's dark. They wake up because it's light. And then for me, I've woken up without an alarm clock most days for multiple years. And for that reason, when I wake up in the morning, it's not hard to get out of bed. It is if I did some experience that went really late into the night and then I have to get up to be somewhere. It's so super hard to get out of bed and I feel tired and groggy in the morning. But most days I sleep long enough for my body to recover and my mind to recover, which is whenever it wakes up. If I woke up before it would naturally wake up, it wasn't done. It wasn't done. And so if you're not giving yourself, if you're not waking up naturally, your body's not recovering fully every night, every single night. You're intervening with the alarm clock, and because then your body and mind saying, yo, don't get up, stay in bed, we ain't done yet. And you're just like, discipline, get up, come on, fight through. It's just stupid. It's just an absolute stupid blind spot. And I'm saying that with a bit of savagery because it's a topic I'm really passionate about, because we're harming our bodies as a society, and it's just normal. If someone's like sat there and they sleep, oh my God, you slept into 10 o'clock. Oh my gosh, how lazy. Why would you sleep into 10 o'clock? Because the body's trying to catch up from the week before. I wish I could sleep until 10 o'clock. But because I go to bed early and I let my body sleep for as long as possible, for me, that's 9 hours a night. And I don't have this huge sleep debt that my body just craves to be able to sleep in for on the weekend. So my sleep time is about 9 hours a night. And that's minimum. That's minimum. If I had a really big output day, I might sleep a little bit more than that. Yeah. And so that is a really crucial part of the puzzle, because what happens is that if someone wakes up and their body, through an alarm, their body didn't get the rest that it needed, the mind is now in a little bit of a hypnotic trance. If coffee is put into the system, that aids head hypnosis, as I call it, that trance state that our ego, our head, puts us in to keep us under control. When we're in head control, head hypnosis, trance, what Napoleon Hill called drifting, what Tara Brach calls trance, what Eckhart Tolle calls hypnosis, aka we don't have conscious awareness, what Carl Jung used to call living below the line, unconsciously. When we're in that unconscious reactive state, all of our patterning is running the show. We don't have free will. And we are defaulting to an energy of pressure, not an energy of presence. When we're in the head hypnosis, our mind's trying to control us. It's using survival brain. It's using our patterning from the past to do the thing it perceives as most familiar, most safe. That's the reactive rhythm of everyone's life. That's what the movie The Matrix was trying to kind of hint at. Not there's this underground secret reptilians. And no conspiracies needed. It's just, if someone is tired all the time, if you've seen the movie Fight Club, when the guy has insomnia, he doesn't have free will. He's a zombie. And so we have a bunch of zombies walking around the planet, and free will versus predeterminism. Before we even start that debate, let's just acknowledge the fact that if someone is working past their capacity, they don't have free will because they don't have conscious awareness. And if someone's not getting enough sleep, boom, lost conscious awareness. And if that's the phenomena of everyone, the situation that most people in the Western world are living by, most people are walking around in head hypnosis as zombies in the Matrix, like robots. It's a problem. This is the curse of busyness. It's like a fairy tale and someone gets cursed and they lose all awareness. And now they're walking around like a zombie until the curse is lifted. That's just most of the world is living by this curse. And so what does it look like to be out of this curse? Well, it's fully rested as an absolute baseline, bare minimum requirement. When you go to sleep at night, first and foremost, circadian rhythm essentially means that the sun absorption into our skin tells our body's chemical processing and hormone production units make melatonin at this certain time. So if you get light on your face, sun on your face in the morning, it goes, okay, cool. This is the start of the day. Now I'm going to estimate later in the day when to start releasing melatonin, which is sleep hormones that make us sleepy and make it easier for us to have a deep, good quality sleep. If we have bright lights on at night and we're on our phones, laptops, there's synthetic light in the house on at all, any white light, any lamps, any ceiling lights, any fluorescent lights, it is literally inhibiting our brain and tricking our body to go, it's still daytime. Don't release melatonin. Don't get tired. Don't release melatonin. And that's when we get in this wired state where we're sleepy, but we're wired. You know what that feels like? It's like I'm sleepy, but I'm wired. Because there's a conflict internally happening where my body is tired, but my brain is being told that it's still daytime. So it's keeping me awake, even though I need to be going to sleep. And so people doing that every night because they're in a bit of a hypnosis. When we're in head hypnosis, our brain tells a ton more stories, limiting beliefs and subconscious beliefs. We're way more addictive in tendencies. We need the sugar. We need the scrolling. We need the Netflix. We need the binge eating. We need the drugs or the porn and then we also, or overworking, whatever those addictive tendencies are. And then all of our personality patterns kick in as well. Avoidance, pleasing, manipulation, whatever they are. And they just are so much easier for the mind to execute in our approach to life when we're in a hypnotic state, when we're in busyness, the curse of busyness. Yeah. And so if you're not waking up naturally, that first and foremost is a monstrous problem that then has a cascading effect of slowly deteriorating the body, massively impacting our longevity and obscuring our capacity for free will. And so my challenge to you is, what would life be like? Well, my challenge to you is to figure out how much sleep your body naturally needs. And an easy way to do that is camping. You're camping for an extended period of time and you just look at the time before you go to sleep, but you don't have any synthetic lights on. And you wake up when you wake up and you do that for a week in a row. You'll be able to see how much your body actually needs. But my challenge to you is to figure out how much you sleep naturally and just start doing it every night. Because what happens for me is that, let's say, for example, I've got to be awake at 7 because I've got something on at 9. And for me, because I know that I'm not going to sleep more than 9 hours, I'm just not going to sleep more than 9 hours. It just doesn't happen unless it was a crazy intense day the day before or something, which is super rare. So because I'm not going to sleep more than 9 hours, if I got to get up at 7, I know that I got to go to bed at 10. If I go to bed at 9:30, there is zero reason for me to set an alarm. There is no reason for me to set an alarm because I know I'm not going to sleep past 6:30 if I go to bed at 9:30. So I don't have to worry. There's nothing wrong with here and there using an alarm, but it does have a set of consequences. It takes multiple days after that to get back into the rhythm because we're such cyclical creatures when it comes to sleep. We're so habitual that the more consecutive days in a row of going to bed at a similar time in a similar routine, the sleep gets deeper and deeper and deeper. If you were to go to bed 2 hours later, if you had 5 nights in a row of going to bed at 9 and getting up at 7, five days in a row, by the 5th day, you're going to be sleeping a bit deeper. If on the 6th day, you go to bed 2 hours later, it'll take you at least another 5 days to get your sleep as deep. But if you do 10 days in a row of going to bed at 9 and getting up at 7, the quality of the depth of sleep will be significantly improved. But again, to get to that level of depth, if you miss one night of consistent sleep, will take a little bit again. It really is that delicate. And when we're looking at these sleep statistics, and just jumping back into that, 30% of respondents have been reportedly diagnosed. That's not the one. Here we go. 62% of adults around the world say they don't sleep as well as they'd like. 99% of adults don't sleep as well as they could. 62% are happy with the amount of sleep they have because they've normalized a low quality relationship to sleep. And they've normalized that. And how do they make up for it? Coffee. That's how they make up for it. I used to not drink coffee, but I would sleep nowhere near as much as my body needed. And then I would do hardcore routines and obviously get up from an alarm. And then I'd do hardcore pump up affirmation, state management rituals in the morning. And so my body was in, whoa, adrenaline, cortisol coursing through my body saying, yep, go, let's do it. Sympathetic nervous system activated. Boom, let's go. And so I was running off adrenaline. And after doing that for years, no coffee, but synthetic way to pump myself up, aka not a natural. It's not natural for me to do that. There's no actual danger. I'm pumping myself up because I've consciously chosen to do that. And after doing that for 7 years straight, I had massive adrenal fatigue where I'd completely burnt out my adrenal glands and they stopped working. And it took 3 or 4 years for them to recover to get to a healthy level as determined average in society, but not as healthy as they would have been before all of that. And I'm still recovering them piece by piece. So, guys, the way that the world works at the moment is not healthy. So we had 10,000 years ago and earlier, let's just say 5 hours a day on average is how much time people are working. Now it's 8 plus traffic, right? 8 minimum. Used to be 5 or 6. Now it's 8. That's a big difference every single day. That's hundreds of hours different. Wait, what is that? 5? That's like 1,000 hours more work a year. That's wild. And then we used to sleep way more. Now we sleep way less. We used to be in nature all the time. Now we're barely in nature as a collective modern society. And so the extra demands on the brain and the amount of things that we have to do is just outrageous. It's outrageous. And then what's happened? Why are we in this cycle where this is a normalized loop? Well, in 8,000 BC, when agriculture was first discovered and experimented with, then we started to have leverage for the first time. So a little bit of side general knowledge. The world capped out in terms of the amount of humans that could occupy it at about 6 to 8 million people with a foraging approach. So the way that we've been able to cram in close to 8 billion people now, which is more than 100 times what it capped out at before. No. Hang on a second. That's 1,000 times. Whoa. So foraging, 6 to 8 million people around the world. Agriculture and leverage of food sources, 1,000 times that. That is so crazy. And then what happened was when coal first became big, coal was first introduced, the combustion engine that could power things with coal. Then the Industrial Revolution happened and we started to leverage things significantly more. And what happened is the same amount of space we can, using farming and agriculture, it leveraged crazily. And then people, instead of just working, like I said earlier, what were people working for? Food, to protect against predators, shelter, and procreation. That's it. And then the rest of the time is just chill, fun, storytelling. Let's have a little tribal meeting. Let's go do an initiation. Let's go hang by the river. And I've seen a little bit of this culture by being around certain indigenous people. And it's a very, very slow, relaxed way of being. Very slow, relaxed way of being. Not overworking. And usually the sort of work that these people are doing is labor, not overthinking in the mind. So then if we go, well, before we were working for what we needed, when agriculture first started, then we started to be able to introduce more things to do. Because for the first time, the manpower required to get the basic necessities met could be met in leverage by less people. So if you had 1,000 people in a location, all 1,000 people are working in some way to contribute towards everyone having food. Now all of a sudden, maybe 500 people could work in the field and tending to the animals, the farm animals, and produce the same amount of food. So now you've got 500 people that can sit around and do nothing. And then more things started to get introduced. Things like more political structures, the idea of learning, the idea of art. And there was more space for some of these other beautiful things in the world that we now have. And with the extra space and time and density of people, all this innovation and ideas with now some of the population has more free time, led to the exchange of ideas and globalization to happen, because as there was a higher density of people together, then over time there was the incorporation of written language and the exchanging of the ideas that were created during that, because of the big portion of the population being able to do other things. So now you have different sorts of food, and now you have dentists, and now you have hairdressers, and now you have all this other industry. Now you have television and entertainment industries, and now we have social media, and there's all these other things that didn't exist before. Before, everyone was just doing their part to get the bare needs met and then chilling the rest of the time. Now people are working for industry. There's other factors that inspire and motivate people to work. We're not just working for bare necessity. And if you did work for bare necessity and all that you cared about was survival, then you could probably what could you live off? I'm just going to say in Melbourne, because I probably live off like 40 grand a year. And that's not a huge amount. But let's say I moved out of Melbourne and I go to a cheaper area and I'm in a share house, paying $150 a week in rent. Okay. If I really wanted to eat cheaply, I could eat for $100 a week. So that's $250 a week in bare necessities. And let's just go outgoings, phone, just stuff like that. Basic dental, healthcare. Let's say another $100 a week. So I've got $250, $350 a week. So I could probably live off $350 a week, which is like $17,500 a year. $350 a week. Then this is just if all I cared about was survival. I didn't care about designer clothes, didn't care about having cool car. Or like, these are all bonuses of modern society. No one had cars back in the tribal days as foragers. There was no cars. And who's got the coolest car? There was no let's buy these expensive clothes. And oh my gosh, like even all the props in this room. So I'm not saying this is what anyone should do. I'm just saying what would be possible if we were operating in the same way that we would have been operating from a mindset perspective 10,000 years ago and before that. And you go $17,500 a year, $350 a week. So if you're working at a cafe and you're making $30 an hour, you work for 15 hours or even less. Let's just say you work 15 hours a week, 3 hours a day. So if all you cared about was food, shelter, there's no predators to worry about now. So we can just scrap that. And procreation, you could survive on, at the moment, 3 hours of work a day. So why then are people working 8, 9, 10? I used to work an average of, what's 7 till 9? 14 hours a day times 7, 84. Yeah, I was working 14 to 18 hours a day for a solid 7-year chunk. But let's just summarize and really hammer this point home here. If what was required in the tribal days was, hey, we're going to do what we need to do to eat, ward off predators, have shelter, and then the rest of the time is all chilled to procreate, have fun, tell stories, relax, etc. Have some conflict, blah, blah, blah. But not working. If we had the same mentality now, the amount of time that we'd be spending working would be a lot less. But the reason that we work a lot more is because there's all these extra pressures of what's accepted in society. We have all these, I'm talking Western world, by the way. I'm not speaking on behalf of third world nations or people because I don't know what it's like to live there fully because I've been lucky enough to grow up in the Western world. So are you picking up what I'm putting down? The quote that I'm going to say now that articulates this pretty strongly is that everything is optional. Everything is optional. It's an exaggeration because there's some things like breathing is not optional if you want to stay alive. I guess it's still optional. You're just going to die. But everything is optional. Everything is optional. People go, I couldn't just quit my job. How am I going to survive? Well, it's like the only reason you don't have freedom is because you say, I couldn't do that. And the reason what someone's actually saying is, I've got a series of attachments that I couldn't let go of that would force me to do that. AKA, if someone had a $40,000 car, because that's just the general way that they feel safe in their friends group of having a car of that standard. And then I say, well, quit your job if you don't like it and you're overworking and your body needs rest and you've got these health conditions coming up and your nervous system, you've got anxiety and stuff. Take some time off work. Well, I couldn't do that. It's like you could sell your car and you could move into a cheaper place and you could eat takeout less. You could definitely do that. You're just attached to a bunch of things. And these attachments that we have that are very much geared towards fear of failure and judgment, rejection, and abandonment are the things that I spoke about this when it came to how I created financial freedom. And I spoke about a lot about freedom being impacted by people's insecurities determining what they spend money on. So people's insecurities costing them. If someone they're going out with their friends and their friends want to eat at this expensive restaurant and they're scared of saying, hey, I can't afford that right now, or I don't want to put my money into that right now. Can we just have a picnic instead? Or can we go to one of their houses and just all bring a meal? But the person's scared of getting rejected. And so that insecurity stops them saying, hey, I don't want to go out and eat at this restaurant. And so they go out and eat at the restaurant because they're scared their friends are going to reject them. Their insecurity just cost them $80. If they've got a car that they're driving around, that they're paying the car debt off because they bought it on finance and it's costing them a couple $100 a week when they could, and it's a $40,000 car or a $35,000 car or an $80,000 car or a $150,000 car, it's optional. Everything is optional. You don't need it. It's just an attachment. And with that attachment, under every attachment is fear. And like I'm attached because I'm scared of not having it. I'm attached. I need it because it's a need because I'm scared. If something's not a need, there's no fear. If it's just like, oh yeah, it's optional, I don't need it. It's like, why, I'm fine without it, which implies they're not afraid. But if someone's like, no, I couldn't get rid of that card, it's because they're scared of getting rejected. And so it is optional, but in their reality, their attachment from fear of rejection or losing status or looking stupid or fear of failure, or that costs. People's insecurities cost them money, and money costs them time, and time feeds this loop of the busyness curse. So we're living in a whole other reality. And from about 1000 AD to now, as innovation and globalization has set in and there've been the exchange of ideas, there's been a whole shift in lifestyle away from meeting bare necessities to experiencing a lot more in life, but also expecting a lot more from ourselves and each other, from our programming of status and likability and fear of rejection and trying to be cool, has put us in this situation where we're in this busyness loop, this cycle to try to get to some point that we think's going to make us happy, but we're actually just scared and trying to fit in, when that doesn't have to be the reality. I don't know about what your friends are like, but my friends love me for who I am. If I don't want to go out for dinner and want to eat at home, they don't not want to be my friend. If I want to leave the party early because I'm tired, sure, someone had an insecurity that it was about them. They could be a little bit upset temporarily, but then they're still going to love me. And so everything is optional. This busyness loop, even if you're believing that it's a requirement, it isn't. It isn't needed. This is just how life is. It doesn't have to be. I went from working 100 hours a week to, I don't know, maybe 30 hours a week now. And a lot of it's work that I don't have to do, but I enjoy doing. But it is very rare that I will stretch my health for my business. The ironic thing is this week is the closest that I've been to doing that in a long time, because I'm preparing to have 4 months off work and technology. But I won't sacrifice my health for work. If there's something that's like, but it has to be done so I can get the workshop launched by this time. It's like, well, I don't need to have the workshop launched by this time. So if I can push the workshop date back a week and launch it for that time and just launch it next week instead of this week, it's okay. And the thing that is required for someone to actually have their health as a priority and to escape the busyness loop is they need to feel a sense of wholeness. If someone's feeling insecure for who they are, and that is 99% of the population, it's very difficult to escape the business loop, because all the attachments and the fears of I'm not enough, so therefore I can't. Everything is not optional. I have to work because I need to save the money to have the time to launch my business, to actually prove I'm worthy and show the world that I'm good enough and I deserve love, so I feel safe. Whereas if someone's feeling whole in who they are, well, it doesn't have to be done. It is optional. And the real ironic thing about all of this is that when someone's in a busyness loop, they're very ineffective. They're very ineffective. Blind spots are just ample in quantity. If someone's in a busyness loop, which means that their body and mind didn't recover overnight, they wake up in somewhat of a hypnosis, obscure the realization of it with coffee, and then their body's impeded in energy. The prefrontal cortex, because the body's dysregulated, is shut down, and they're surviving off adrenaline. So they're not able to critically think and strategic think on the same level. So decisions are made reactively and non-thoughtfully. Reactively, short-term based, not long-term based. And that short-term based decision-making condition just leads to more reactivity, and the cycle continues over and over again, over and over again. And so the opportunity here is to actually claim the truth that you are whole. And from that baseline of knowing that you're whole, perfect, and complete, love yourself enough to prioritize fulfillment as your top priority in life. This is my biggest mission in life, because fulfillment was not my priority in the past. It was trying to create my potential out of the fear that if I didn't give every single thing that I had to achieving in life, and I got on my deathbed, I'm going to die with regrets and I've failed life. What an illusion. We're here to experience life. The beauty of life is a circumstantial, moment-to-moment opportunity to embrace the experience. That's what fulfillment is. Fulfillment is, in one word, presence. And if someone's not feeling whole, it means they're feeling incomplete. If someone's feeling incomplete, they're not feeling whole. Because we're such relational beings and we need to feel a sense of belonging and likability in the tribe to actually feel safe. If we're not feeling whole, there's a part of our nervous system that's dysregulated in every moment. Because there's this belief of, right now I'm not whole. There's a problem because I'm not lovable in this moment. And for this reason, I may not be protected, so I'm unsafe. And so there's a thin film of stress that perforates someone's life and just sits in it until someone actually recognizes that they are the universe. They are whole right now. And that this life isn't a test. This life is an opportunity for fulfillment. There's growth. It's handed to you on a silver platter. The breadcrumbs keep rolling. The opportunities for growth keep coming. That doesn't mean that you can't extract fulfillment in this moment. And the fourth heart truth that I live by in the heart's prayer practice I do every day is that fulfillment is here and now. That's the truth. The truth is, I'm on a podcast talking to you right now. In my partner, Shana, in her parents' house, because we're staying here temporarily at her parents' house. Okay? This is perfect. It's never going to be better than this. It's never going to be better than this. I could very easily in this lifetime, I would not be surprised if I end up having some exorbitant net worth, lots of money, where I can live in a massive house in nature somewhere, have a lot of support with like really aligned nanny, and just have all this free time and this big room with a studio and another staff member running the podcast. That could happen. But my life is not going to be 1% more opportunistic for fulfillment than it is right now. I'm here as a human being talking to you all. And when we are believing and soaking in this truth, because it's a truth, we just forget it. If I'm soaking in and going, right now is as good as it's going to get, I'm serving right now. I'm doing what I love. I love running a podcast. And I'm doing that. Whether I'm on the podcast talking to Jay Shetty, who I'm interviewing, or Tony Robbins, or some spiritual leader that I really love, I'm still here in this body talking to them on a podcast with vibrations flowing out of my mouth, just like it is now. And so honoring that truth, if that is really embodied, that belief, that fulfillment's here and now, it's never going to get better than this. If you really believe that in your body, in your mind, and it's a full embodied belief, then what does it matter? Why is there so much pressure and attachment to being somewhere else? If you know this is as good as it's going to get, why do you need to desperately work hard and sacrifice your alignment, sacrifice your state of consciousness, rid yourself of the present moment, and get tumbled back into pressure? That doesn't have to happen when you know that you're already whole. That only happens when you're under the illusion that you're not whole and you desperately need to try to do external things to get whole. And that perpetuates the busyness loop, the cycle of pressure, the illusion of being not enough. And so there is the internal factor in this situation around self-worth that is impacting and catalyzing this whole situation of busyness. I'm not enough. I don't have that car yet that my friends have. And I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing that these celebrities got all this stuff and they must be so much better than me. My life's not as good as it could be. I'm not good enough yet. People aren't going to like me as much because I say everyone loves them. They've got 20 million followers on Instagram. They're lovable. I'm not as lovable. There must be something wrong with me and I'm not currently safe and I don't have a partner right now. If I don't work hard to get the job, to get the car, to get the clothes, to get the boob job, to change myself, then maybe one day in the future I'll be lovable and then I'll feel safe. But right now I'm dysregulated and I'm living off adrenaline and I'm working more than I need. And then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I've had been under so much pressure. And then to try to combat that, and deal with that pressure in this tired mode, I'm reaching and grasping for short-term gratification, which is challenging me more. And then also I've got to fit in smashing the gym so I can get that slim waist and that squat butt, that juicy ass, so people think I'm hot, so I can actually attract someone. And then I'm even more exhausted. And then I get home and I'm like wanting to validate myself and just reinforce the idea that I'm not enough. So I'm now stuck in a scroll hole and it's 10:30 p.m. and now I'm watching a Netflix show because I'm in adrenaline and, I've got to eat my chocolate to try to get that hit because I felt really incomplete and pressure all day and I deserve a treat. And now I'm going to have that sugar and it's going to keep me up and make my sleep worse. And I've got bright lights. I'm on the laptop. Now it's 11:30, but I've got to be up at 7. I'm getting 7.5 hours of disturbed, low quality sleep, wake up exhausted, need to pop a coffee just to be able to get out of bed, snooze the alarm for a bit. Oh, why am I doing this? And the cycle continues. It ain't a way to live. And it can only be done from self-punishment and pressure. Because if someone actually has the awareness that that's the cycle, there's got to be a more loving way. And there absolutely is. Everything is optional. The most loving thing that you can do is look after yourself to maintain at least somewhat of a state of presence. So you actually are conscious. You actually have awareness over what you're doing and why you're doing it. You're not in a conversation just, how you going? Good. Yeah, how you going? Good. Did you see this? Oh, and there's no, what do I want from this person in this moment? What do I want to know about them? How have they been? What have you been up to? Oh, wow. Have you ever thought about this? Oh, did you know that this happened? And there's this deep knowing and curiosity about that person because you want to connect deeply with them. There ain't no time from that in the business loop, real deep, genuine connection. There's just surface layer trying to prove myself and I'm scared because I'm actually still feel like I'm behind. Fulfillment is not possible in the business loop. It's not that fulfillment's not possible when busy, because sometimes what's needed in our heart's alignment is to get some things done and put the foot on the accelerator a little bit, like I've been doing this week. It's pretty rare for me, but I've been doing it this week. I think this is my 10th or 11th podcast in the last 3 days. And that is a lot. That's aligned. Have I been as present and fulfilled? Not as much, no. It's okay. It's required of me this week. I'm okay with that. It's not actually fully required, but I'm happy to kind of play with that a little bit this week. But that's not the busyness loop. There's a difference between choosing to be busy and there's a requirement to knuckle down in times versus involuntarily living every moment in reactivity and way behind on sleep, the nervous system suffering, health conditions ensuing as a result, and feeling stuck in it like there's no other way. That is a karmic consequence that's compounded over years. And it can be freed, that reality. You can find freedom, but it's going to take some honest, challenging, courageous decisions to be made so that you can live with love in your heart and space in your mind to see what's actually happening. Enjoy and soak in the present moment. Connect to life. Feel whole as you go. And then from that place, you can flow with your art. Then from that place, you can actually be of service because you can transmute love. If you're in the business loop all the time, even if you've got 1,000 clients, there's no transmission of wholeness there. There isn't. Because that pressure, addictive, head hypnosis state is one that presupposes lack. So get a hammer, get out your alarm clock, smash the alarm clock with that hammer. No, I'm joking. Keep the alarm clock. Start to go to bed earlier. Take it seriously. Take leadership of the quality of your life. That's what fulfillment is. A high quality experience of life. You've got this. I believe in you. You deserve this. I love you. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. If you haven't left a review on the podcast, please do. Please do. And I'll chat to you guys all soon. Peace out.